I feel so unhappy right now, and I don't see any way of getting out of this. So basically, I've been struggling with accepting the fact that I am so unhappy in this time of my life. I got all that I ever wanted. I made my family consider the fact of moving to another country to have a better life. They thought my idea was good and we planned everything. We did it for our future. Now we are here. Little by little things are getting better for us. We made it to rent a house all together. I, F20, am the youngest of the family, so I've been kinda blessed with that because things are being even easier for me. They allowed me to finish my last year of high school here without asking me to work and help them. They also been letting me keep all my money so I can save and buy my own stuff. Since I started to work, my family's been extremely supportive to me when it comes to money. I got graduated from high school and did the speech for my class. I've been able to travel and actually visit some cool places of this country, and all of this was the past 2 years. I am still trying to figure out if it was the emotion of changing my environment. Leaving my country was such a relief for me because I knew I had no future there, really nothing to do. So as a family, we achieved that goal. I got so many friends in high school and felt I was living in a surreal dream. Everything changed after I got graduated. Before that, probably the last day I was completely and all happy even inside my bones. I felt I accomplished something. I felt like I gave back my parents everything they've ever done for me. I mentioned them in my speech, and that was such a feeling that I couldn't quite describe with words, but fulfilled my heart. And that's it. Before that, I had so many plans. Plans that I wanted to start as soon as I got graduated and never did, till today. I got a good job in the same school I got graduated, in the office. And I knew since the very first day I hated that environment. I am a natural artist, nothing there is for me. But I stayed. Right now, I don't keep any of those friends that gave me those memories from high school. I feel lonely. And not because they are gone. I knew they were not going to last in my life. But it's a different kind of loneliness. I feel like I am burdened for my family because I am still with the same shitty job with the bad payment cause it's a part-time. I am not able to feel happy anymore. I actually don't feel any type of motivation at all. I've been living only for inertia, only cause I am here and I have to live. I have done nothing with my life since that graduation day. I've achieved nothing, and I feel everyone is achieving amazing stuff. People my age is already graduating from college, and here I am with the application process behind my computer because I am procrastinating doing it. I've been postponing stuff since the beginning of this year. I try to think if it's my addiction to my phone what made me a professional procrastinator, but it's seriously ruining my life, all of this. There's this situation at my work that also makes me very anxious, and it is because I have very easy tasks to do, and I can finish them very easy, then have a lot of time free, yes, while I work. So at work I just procrastinate a lot, which makes me get into a full circle of anxiety because I feel I am doing wrong because I'm actually wasting time and avoiding my duties for some time. And then I feel like I'm going to get caught for it, so I'm kinda always anxious while working because of that. It is also my fault, and there's no one to blame because I do it only because I want to, and that's it. Most of my time working I'm just watching TikTok, YouTube, literally doing nothing productive. Because at least I'd feel like I'm worth if I spend the time that I avoid from my duties but doing something important for me, but not my case. I just waste my time and then be afraid of my bosses knowing I am not quite doing okay, which makes me anxious. I know, a full circle, weird but don't know how to escape from it. I could be an amazing employee, and I just decided not to. I've been feeling like I was only living for the wait of some important dates. Like if I have a concert, I will just get excitement for the wait and hype of that day. Then when the day actually happens, it's all empty again. I don't really know how to explain. Weird feeling. For example, right now I am waiting for a huge package of some decorations for my room. Silly, I know, and believe it or not, the little kid that wanted to escape from her room to be happy and free. It's now in her dream country, living her dream life, but the only thing that keeps her alive is the await for a package. Yes, I am talking about myself. I know that all these things seems to be so stupid. I could just literally do a research for the things I want to do and try to go and achieve them, or apply for the college scholarship I need. But how can I explain to you guys that I feel literally like I am physically attached to my bed, that every task, for small that can be, it's just so difficult to me that I rather say tomorrow. And tomorrow never happens. I spend my days in my bed wasting my time. I know I am doing it, and it kills me not knowing how to stop this. Lack of motivation, procrastination, phone addiction, stuck. Those are only a few things I can name from this. Also the fact that I used to be very easily able to express my emotions or just cry. I am for real empty right now. I feel I lost my soul. I don't even like myself anymore. How I look, I lost my style in my clothes, or the emotion it gave me pick an outfit. I tried to date, to go out, Tinder, Hinge, whatever. Nothing can make me feel. I really don't know what to do, but if someone really read this until this part, I just want to thank and wish you are never feeling this way. I don't think there's a way to escape from this, as I mentioned in the title, but any advice or just support is of course well received. Lost the only family I had left. This is going to be such a wall of text, I'll be surprised if anyone reads it. But it's more for me than anything anyways, and there's a lot of context to get through to even understand what I mean. So, the context: my dad was straight up physically abusive not only to our mother but to me as well. I don't know if he ever hurt my siblings, but I can't imagine he would limit it to just 2 people. He tried to take me and my younger sibling once, while high on drugs, and my mom freaked out and fled. Needless to say, he and his entire side of the family, who will still fully support him and his actions to this day, are out of my life. My extended family is made up entirely of great aunts and uncles and their children who I haven't seen in about 10 years at this point. They all, except for the kids, participated in gaslighting, bullying, and ignoring my mother, particularly when her mental health started to go downhill, and tried to convince her to stay with the man abusing her because it was just better for the kids. They have also shit-talked me and my 2 siblings to the only member of that part of the family I still talk to, my grandma, calling us leeches and the like. Very similar to what they called my mom for being single with 3 kids. Needless to say, I don't feel that I can have a relationship with them at this point. The people I have felt comfortable calling family for the past 25 years are my mom, siblings, grandma, and great-grandma, all from my mom's side. My great-grandma passed away in 2014. My grandma herself is very self-involved and was abusive to my mom. One of the people who told her to go back to my dad while she was actively fleeing. My mom seriously lost her mind in 2019 and is convinced both myself and my siblings were killed as children and replaced by government psyops. Now she lives on the streets somewhere I don't know about, writing a blog to broadcast her delusions. Effectively, my only true family left were my 2 siblings, my older sibling's spouse, and their wonderful child who I still love with all my heart. We all lived on the same property as our grandma, both in order to help her take care of it. It's quite large and has 2 houses on the property, the larger of which we siblings stayed in, while the smaller one is where my grandma resides, and to make the cost of living easier on all of us, we also figured the more people in my siblings' kids' life, the better. Well, this changed mid-last month. On my birthday, I decided to ask if they could take me to a lake about 2 hours away. I would have chosen a closer one if such a thing existed, lol, but this lake was also chock full of childhood memories of our mom taking us there, so I figured it might be nice to revisit as adults. My older sibling and I got into an argument. Basically, right when we got there, I was telling her where I remembered we parked as kids. They kept telling me I didn't remember anything from when we were younger. It boiled up and then simmered down before we'd even parked. It was a fine enough time. We spent some hours soaking up the sun, but it ended up being too cold to really get into the lake anyway. My intelligent ass thought mid-April was a good time to visit a lake. Sure, Jan. So it was nice, but not exactly what I was looking forward to. I'm glad baby had fun. It was on the drive back that things went wrong. Our car broke down. We texted our grandma to see if she could pick us up. As she was on her way, some strangers pulled over and offered to jump it. We took the offer. Then they started asking us for money. We said we didn't have cash. They didn't have PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. They said they would follow us to the next town as we had broken down on the side of the highway. Well, they followed us for a bit, and then our car broke down again. At this point, I'm stressed and pissed off. My little sister and I are getting into verbal back and forths about shit I can't even remember. These people come up to the driver's window and are showing my older siblings Google results on their phone about what could be causing our car to break down. I'm assuming to just make it seem like they still deserve their $20. Eventually, they seem to catch on that we're all pissed and stressed. They get back in their car and just sit behind us, waiting, presumably for our ride to get there, who may potentially have the cash we don't have. It's during this period of time I say the most hurtful stuff. I say I shouldn't have done anything for my birthday, that this was a mistake, that I just wanted to die. This isn't very common for me to do, especially in front of my family. I do have depression and struggle with suicidal ideation, but I try hard not to verbalize that kind of thing to my siblings, especially after I recently lost a friend to suicide, so the fear of that kind of thing really happening is quite fresh. Anyway, I think what really triggered everything is that I said something really nasty in the middle of another petty argument with my younger sister. I told her I wish she had the guts to just kill me. I really regret that now. I regret everything I said. I regret going on the trip at all, but there's no taking it back. just taking responsibility. At this point, I'm truly sick of the scammers just sitting behind us in their fucking truck. I take my card and phone, give them my card and show them that I have $24 on the account, and ask them if they can just take that. The only question they had was what my PIN was, LOL. As soon as they spent the money, I replaced the card. My bank account physically does not let you overdraft, so I felt decently secure in that. About 15 minutes after they leave, my grandma pulls up on the shoulder and I start getting our shit from our car into hers. That's when my older sibling gets out of the car and starts shoving me. I was ignoring her at first until she pushed me onto the ground, and when I tried to stand up, she just pushed me down again repeatedly. At that point, I grab onto her hair and here we are, 25 and 27 respectively, fighting like 10-year-olds, rolling on the ground. My glasses come flying off, ones I had just replaced, and she smashed them with her foot. My memory is a little blurry and I can't remember if it was on purpose or not, but I can't see shit without my glasses. Like I literally have to be 6 inches from your face to see any detail at all. I'll admit, it made me lose my shit for a second. I shove her and then walk across the highway, halfway convinced I was gonna walk home, halfway convinced I was gonna end my life right there. I know I'm dramatic. I decided I wasn't going to do any of that. Instead, I cross the street and punch her in the face, twice. That's when my younger sister starts telling she's gonna get me forcefully admitted. Has her phone out and everything. I start freaking out more at this. My dear sibling is yelling at me about how this is what I wanted, and that I was crazy and not allowed around her kid. At the same time, my younger sister is just repeating that she's going to get me locked up. I don't remember much after that, honestly. I know my older sibling tried to walk home with her baby until I begged her to just take the car, telling her I would rather walk or call a friend and wait for them to pick me up than to have her walking around with her 3-year-old by the side of a highway. My little sister comes up again at this point, saying again she's going to have me committed and that I started this fight. My memory then was worse than it is now, so I basically had nothing to say, but I felt like everything was so wrong, so I started fighting with my younger sister at that point, not physically, but I was screaming at her, although I don't remember what it is I said. Anyway, at some point we all somehow end up in my grandma's car, me in the front, my siblings and the baby in the back. I don't say anything for the majority of the drive, but my siblings are just continuing to talk about what a black hole I was, about how when they heard the news that I'd killed myself they would be relieved and celebrate, about how I would probably blame them in my suicide note because I'm incapable taking responsibility, about how there are so many worse things happening to people in the world that it's disgusting and selfish that I am even considering suicide. It went on for the whole 1.5 hours we had to remaining to get home. At some point, I called a friend and asked if they could take in me and my cats. They live in an apartment, though, so I was worried about getting them in trouble. So I just told them to forget about it and kinda hung up on them unintentionally. I mean, my family was getting louder in the back seat, basically saying I was a pedophile and groomer and just like our mom, a user of people. So it was hard to keep my head in the conversation anyway. My friend is 22, which is why my siblings use that particular language. So when we get home, they're still going, loudly talking about me in the other room, just loudly enough that I could hear it, about how disgusting I am and how I'm a succubus they can't wait to be rid of, for another 15 to 30 minutes. My friend got back to me and let me know their partner's parents have a spare room, and they're homeowners so I can bring cats. That's where I've been living for the past month. I already found a new apartment that I've signed a lease for and job in the city I'm moving to. It's pretty close to my current town, but cost of living here is about 2 times more expensive than it is in the city nearby. I have spoken to my siblings since. My older sibling is still very short and curt with me. I never really hear anything from them, but I'm glad that she is still sharing photos of the baby. When I last visited my old place, she didn't let me to be with him unsupervised, even though previously I was her go-to for babysitting or playing with him. My younger sister clearly still loves me and I love her, but she is adamant that she was right for telling me she'd forcibly have me committed, and she still would if I ever seemed off. Both have said they don't know anything about me. Despite talking to them sometimes, I feel like I'm finally really alone in the world. Conversations are strained like they never have been. I had no problems with my living arrangement, but they are glad I'm moving, more excited, happy, and active than I've ever seen them. It makes me realize what a drain I was on them. I hope I can do well by myself. I'm so fucking sad and terrified and hurt. It's finally sunk in that I've effectively lost the last family I've ever had. Talking to them is not like talking to the people I grew up with, the only people I felt 100% comfortable around. Now it's strained, tense, and awkward, and it feels like conversation with a stranger or one of my great aunts or uncles. TLDR. I got into an intense fight with the only family I still have. I felt pushed out, so I'm moving. And I'm now coming to the realization the only family I had left are becoming strangers to me, and it's all my fault. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. My brother is a borderline PD alcoholic drug addict, and my mom lies for him and has emotional public childlike outbursts towards me when I point out the truth. I love my mom. I now, age 37, get upset because she's obsessed with my brother 8 years older than me and always has been. Since early teens, I was blamed for his behavior. Mom said when I was a child maybe she shouldn't have had me. My brother used to tell me he'd commit suicide every weekend. He had a key to the house and would just turn up drunk whenever, covered in self-harm. He came up to me and my friends after school and called us all the C word, which was excruciating. He changed his name to that of a fictional serial killer and used to deliberately talk as though he was growling, etc. Mom and Dad used to let him drink on special occasions. I'd get upset on Christmas Day and my siblings labeled me difficult and annoying, but I was overwhelmed with the worry of what would happen that day with all the drinking. By the end of the day, he'd be crying so much. As a child, I felt a need to fix him, and so I'd go on walks with him, but he, on a couple of these walks, took me to the local pub and bought me vodka, but I was only about 12. He delighted in watching me sip alcohol, then got chucked out by the landlord. Mum always encouraged me to please him. I felt depressed, aged 11 onwards, but nobody heard me. My twin from an early age seemed often angry, and my oldest brother was 10 years older and moved out. I was scapegoated as difficult, awful, and a bully as I started having outbursts about how much I hated my alcoholic brother after several years of his extreme behavior. I was ignored and dismissed by my parents as a bully, awful, etc. They ordered me not to tell my school anything about my brother, so I suffered in silence and then misbehaved at school, which gave my family further ammunition to describe me in these horrible ways. My brother blamed me and my sister for being born, and my mom truly believed it was our fault for a while, which I think fueled her hatred at the time of me. My brother over the years has been charged and convicted twice with drinking driving, and my parents tried to protect him. N helped him with pleading not guilty despite massive evidence to prove I'm guilty. He recently was charged with sexually assaulting a male paramedic, and my parents insist it was made up by the paramedic because they say the paramedic had it in for him. He lied that he was in intensive care for a suicide attempt. He's committed fraud, but Mum insists he hasn't, but I know he has. My dad would show off that when my brother had money, he'd been very clever and was the first out of any of you with the potential to be a millionaire. My dad even asked me I'd considered money laundering. When I was 15, my brother was allowed to look after the house when we went on holiday and was charged with a fray. He'd threatened the neighbor with a knife, had massive parties, smashed things around the house, and left a hardcore porn magazine under the cover of my bed. Our cat looked thin, and I don't think he'd fed him. Mom and Dad quickly on our return took us to some gig where older boys were taking drugs and left us there while they cleared up. They didn't let me talk about what happened. When I later relived the trauma of my childhood, they'd dismiss me as a liar and regularly said, "You imagine things, you horrible, nasty girl. You're such a bullying, sincerely hope you don't lie to your friends like this about your brother." At my older brother's wedding, he assaulted me, he groped me and forced me to sit on his lap, and I kept trying to escape, but he wouldn't let go. I burst into tears. Mum said I made this up. Mum is older now, 72. She's healthy but slightly more frail. I get sad that she's older. When I see her, if I mention my brother as my PTSD makes me angry with him, she gets very cross. She is even now saying his ex-wife is lying about his drinking and my parents are paying for his legal advice so he can see the children, but in my opinion they are better off not seeing him. His wife is Chinese with no family. Mom and Dad allow her to stay for a low rate of rent in my nan's house and I think keep her there to have some control, but she's now told them she doesn't want them or my brother to see the kids. Mom and Dad used to love her, but when she fell out with my brother, they turned on her. Mom and Dad say she used my brother for money, but she asked for more, probably because he was constantly posting on Facebook showing off about being rich, posting receipts for 400 pounds lunches, etc., all the while she was a working single moth. I see Mum once a month and she sees him daily. I feel nothing has changed for 25 years. When I see her, she seems a sweet older woman but becomes spiteful towards me if I mention him, then denies what she's said. 5 years ago, I was admitted to a mental hospital for a month, and my parents said, "You're not ill. You just knew how to get in, manipulated your way into hospital." They knew I was an alcoholic being treated for this, but on their few visits, they took me on my leave to a pub, then were furious when I said I felt like drinking despite my parents and sister all drinking, when I was only 2 weeks sober. Mom and Dad used to come to family meetings with me and my psychiatrist and then tell my estranged brothers every detail. Dad regularly gossiped with my brothers about me as I found out. He'd dismiss me in the meetings as having a personality defect, 10 years ago, feeling extremely alone and anxious, I ended up in an abusive relationship with a man who raped and sodomized me. When I told my dad the detail of this that I was angry he didn't go to prison, Dad angrily dismissed me, saying, "He won't go to prison. People don't go to prison for that." Despite knowing it was rape. Age 18, I was in a serious car crash and had a mild brain injury. The hospital rang them, but they didn't visit or take me home. Mum told me yesterday they didn't believe I'd been in a car crash and thought I was lying at the time. My boyfriend was drunk and caused the crash, and his mother looked after me, and my parents didn't seem to care that he caused it, and they'd never met him. When I was 3.5 years sober, I relapsed, sharing a bottle of wine with my mother. She denied that she was there for my relapse, but she definitely knew she drank with me that first day. She now believes her own lies that she was nothing to do with it. When sober, my dad seemed angered by it, shouting, "You haven't changed a bit despite being 1 year sober." After a while, I had another breakdown and would impulsively steal, which I never do now, and Mum and my twin sister would buy things and order things from me, which my mum now denies ever happened, as though I made it up. I'm 37 and find it hard to find a boyfriend or partner. I feel I've had a life lacking in parental love, and I get urges to mention this to my mother, who then becomes spiteful, denies being spiteful, and makes me feel guilty for how I feel. I feel I just want my parents to truly love me, and I wish my siblings were loving and kind, but they aren't interested. I try so hard to learn and change, but never feel good enough. Even when I relapsed, my father took photos when I drank at their house, asking me to hold my champagne as though he was proud I was drinking. I want to know how to move on and to have a good relationship with family members, but I feel abused and upset that I am not loved or understood. It can feel very lonely sometimes. I just want to feel free from all this.